The patrol car slammed to a stop on Magnolia Avenue, tires screeching against the wet asphalt. Officer Dean Thorne jumped out, the rain instantly plastering his hair to his forehead, and snarled, "Get your backside off that retaining wall now." The elderly man didn't move. He simply looked up, perfectly calm, his pipe glowing faintly under the yellow street lamp. "I am simply waiting for my grandson, officer." Dean's face hardened. "I couldn't care less. You're causing a disturbance." He kicked the stone wall with a savage force. The man's walking stick tumbled. His head struck the curb with a sickening crack. Blood spread rapidly across the wet pavement. Sergeant Maya Rivera gasped, freezing mid-step. "Dean, stop. He's seriously injured," she cried. Dean roughly yanked the man to his feet, snapping the handcuffs shut around his thin wrists, charging him with resisting. The elderly man's voice was quiet, steady even as blood streamed down his temple. "Son, you have just ensured your own ruin." Dean sneered back. "Yeah, we'll see about that." He dragged the man toward the patrol car, while passers-by stopped, raising their phones, thunder rolling heavily over the city of Crescent Heights. This was the pivotal moment, an assault that would soon ignite a nationwide reckoning. The heavy rain continued as the cruiser sped toward the Central District precinct. Maya sat in agonizing silence, her pulse frantic. She had seen countless bad arrests, but this one felt cursed. The man, Justice Elias Vance, a retired state Supreme Court justice, sat ramrod straight, cuffed, blood drying on his face. No pleading, no anger, just a terrifying silence. "Old relic thought he could defy me," Dean muttered, his knuckles white. "Dean, something's terribly wrong," Maya whispered, glancing at the mirror. He looked completely unafraid. "He's nothing," Dean snapped, a drunk who felt entitled. But when Maya picked up the wallet that had slipped between the seats, her breath caught. Justice Elias Vance, retired, Supreme Court of the state. Her hands began to shake violently. "Dean," she choked out, "this man is a state Supreme Court justice." Dean ripped the ID in half and tossed it away. "Fake." No judge is sitting alone in the rain. Deep down, Maya knew they had crossed a fatal, unforgivable boundary. When they reached the precinct, Dean brutally shoved Elias into a cold metal chair in the holding room. "You'll wait right there." Elias met his eyes, unblinking. "Every choice carries a consequence, Officer Thorne." "You think you can scare me?" Dean yelled, his voice cracking. "No," Elias replied softly. "I'll let the Constitution do that for me." Maya turned away, the guilt she'd carried for years, covering up corruption, staying silent about her own past trauma in this precinct, suddenly unbearable. Elias's voice, full of pain and grace, stirred something deep within her. She whispered to the desk clerk, "Sam, log him in." "Justice Vance." Sam eyed the blood nervously. "Loitering?" Dean barked. "Book him as John Doe for disorderly conduct." Elias sat still, the clock ticking loudly. He thought of his grandson, Dr. Liam Vance, an ER surgeon at City General, saving a life just blocks away, while his grandfather's blood-stained police concrete. He almost smiled. His life's work had taught that justice required patience. Now, patience would bring justice to him. Dean paced. "Who the hell are you?" Elias finally spoke. "The man who swore an oath to the law you are now violating." Dean slammed the table. "You think I won't crush you?" Elias looked straight through him. "You already have, and now the nation will witness it." In the hallway, Maya quietly turned on her body camera, angling it carefully. Instinct, or perhaps redemption, drove her. "Dean," she said, her voice strained. "Call it a night." "Not until I'm finished," he snarled. The lights flickered violently. Elias looked up and said quietly, "I once sat on the highest bench in this state. Tonight I sit on the last." Maya realized he was not a victim. He was a silent, powerful prophet. Outside, the low, powerful rumble of the city's awakening began. Federal lines would soon explode, and the Central District would crumble under the weight of its own terrible secrets. Ethan bolted out of the captain's office, Graves' words ringing in his ears. "Delete the record." He was never here. But the moment he re-entered the hallway, Elias's voice carried clearly. "Officer Thorne, your late father taught me that authority without honor is merely brutality. A lesson you apparently missed." Dean lunged back into the room. "Don't you dare talk about my father." Elias's tone didn't falter. "He was a good man. You lost him the day you chose rage over duty. Just as you lost the young victim of the bridge shooting who still wakes you screaming." Dean froze, his face draining of all color. "How do you know that?" Elias looked down at his own blood pooling on the metal. Because truth is self-evident. Dean stumbled backward, grabbing his phone. No call, he shouted at Sam. Sam hesitated. Policy is one call, Dean. IAB will fry us. Dean's jaw tightened. Fine. One call. Elias smiled faintly and dialed an obscure number. Across the country, Chief Justice Naomi Ortiz received a call. Elias, it's 3 a.m. His voice was calm. Naomi, they've drawn blood. Central District, Crescent Heights. It's time. The Chief Justice, who owed Elias her career, stood up. Stay put. I'm mobilizing AUSA Marcus Gray and the full force of the DOJ. Dean snatched the phone. Who was that? Elias met his gaze. The woman who will write your final headline. Officer. You're bluffing. Dean screamed. She is the Chief Justice of the United States, Elias replied, the simple truth of the statement silencing the room entirely. Just then, the lights died completely. Every monitor went black. A single ominous blue message flashed on Sam's terminal. Federal seizure initiated. Dean ran out shouting, "What is this?" Graves cursed, dropping his whiskey glass. The feds are inside our system. The radio crackled with a clear, authoritative voice. Federal warrant incoming. Central District Precinct. Seizure order signed. Ortiz v. Graves stared, defeated. The front door burst open. Dr. Liam Vance, still in his blood-splattered scrubs, stormed in. "Where is Justice Elias Vance?" he bellowed. Graves attempted to bluster. He was obstructing an officer. Liam pulled out his federal ID. "You assaulted a Supreme Court justice. You are all finished. Every action you've taken here is now evidence for the Department of Justice." The doors flew open again. AUSA Marcus Gray and a team of federal agents poured in. "Captain Graves, by order of the DOJ, this precinct is federal property. All systems are under audit." Graves trembleth. Dean backed away. Maya stepped forward, producing her flash drive. "Mr. Gray, I have 47 videos, including the assault tonight. I'm ready to testify." Max looked at her, recognizing her pain. "You'll receive full immunity and protection, Sergeant." Graves lunged at Maya. "You traitor." Agents restrained him. "Captain Graves, you are detained for obstruction and conspiracy," Max declared. Liam rushed to his grandfather in the cell, tears streaming. "Grandpa, they hurt you." Elias smiled faintly. "No, child. They merely exposed themselves." The first national news alert broke at 4 a.m. Supreme Court justice assaulted by police. Federal raid underway. The body cam footage, Dean kicking the wall, Elias's blood on the pavement, went instantly viral. Protesters began gathering outside the precinct. 6 months later, the federal courthouse on Liberty Street overflowed for the trial. Vance versus City of Crescent Heights. Dr. Liam Vance took the stand first, detailing his grandfather's injuries. Then came Justice Elias Vance, his presence filling the room. He pointed directly at Dean Thorne, pale and hollow-eyed at the defense table. "Officer Thorne, you saw an old man and elected yourself judge, jury, and executioner. Before you saw my name, you saw a target. That bench was more than wood. It was a memory of every man who ever waited for justice and was ignored." Then came Maya Rivera. Her voice was strong, though trembling. "Captain Graves ordered us to keep certain streets clean. That meant profiling and exclusion. When Justice Vance bled, I realized that my silence was a form of violence. I was complicit, but I will not be quiet anymore." Dean Thorne finally took the stand, his voice barely a whisper. "I had severe PTSD from the bridge shooting. I saw a threat where there was none. I was afraid, and I let that fear turn to hatred." The jury returned a verdict swiftly. Judge Hannah Bell read the sentence, her voice cold and absolute. "Officer Dean Thorne is found guilty on all counts: assault, civil rights violation, and obstruction. You're sentenced to 18 years in federal prison." Dean collapsed, weeping uncontrollably. "Sergeant Maya Rivera, for complicity, your sentence is reduced to 5 years with mandatory rehabilitation and community service." Maya nodded, tears of relief and sorrow streaming. "Captain Harold Graves, deceased, posthumously convicted of conspiracy, will have his estate pay $3 million in restitution. 28 officers were terminated, and 12 more faced indictment." The crowd erupted in applause and relieved sobs. Liam hugged his grandfather. "We won, Grandpa." Elias smiled, tired but radiant. "No, child. The people won." Dean Thorne was escorted away in cuffs, the guard closing the door as he began to sob uncontrollably. Meanwhile, the body of Captain Graves, found in his office that night with a self-inflicted gunshot wound, was quietly removed, a shattered plaque reading "Honor" lying beside him. Elias Vance stood on the courthouse steps. The rain finally stopped, the sun breaking through the clouds. "Justice is not revenge," he told the assembled reporters. "It is the painstaking repair of a broken system. The work starts now." The assault that began in the dark had forced the light. The precinct was soon permanently closed, replaced by the Elias Vance Center for Community Oversight. Elias's story became mandatory ethical training for every new recruit nationwide. He had reminded a nation that authority without humanity is oppression. 1 year later, Elias sat on the newly installed bronze bench on Magnolia Avenue, his grandson beside him, watching the diverse crowd walk freely. The law had spoken, and the bench, once a scene of brutality, stood forever as a symbol of the enduring, quiet power of the truth.